This is like a follow-up video to my last video, in which I went through the whole Bashar session about step 1 on the social experiment, which basically amounts to disengaging from conspiracy theories, and with emphasis on theories, because in that session he talks about how you should ground things in reality by always going to the source and always, take the time to look into it until you actually know for sure what it is about, and not waste your time speculating about all sorts of conspiracy nonsense, which is just a waste of time and doesn't help anything, and basically just traps people in a victimized conscious mindset, because you can easily become a victim of the conspiracies because you think that's the reason your life is such and such. So that's the point of step 1. But this video is going to be about something Bashar sometimes mentions, which is related, in which he says many times, he will say something like, you will realize at some point that you are your governments. So what does he mean by that? Obviously doesn't mean that everybody is an evil psycho, like, the people who run the government. That's not really the point. And you only truly realize this when you have dismantled a lot of your own inner government, so to speak. So what do I mean by that? I talk about similar things in many videos you can check out, but to recap, so basically you're born into a corrupted world, a negative mass consciousness with people like your parents who have a lot of negativity in their unconscious mind. And as a baby, this is basically translates as a rejection trauma. And this creates a big resistance very close to the center of the source of your beingness, the source of your consciousness early on in life as you're a baby. And this is like a no to life, a rejection trauma, a big resistance to life that's created, and a resistance to the natural self at the same time, a resistance to life, obviously, because it's the same thing. You're streaming your life through. Life is streamed through you, through your consciousness, and when you have a resistance like that in the middle of it, it obviously has a big effect. And if you study MK Ultra and mind control, that's when I learned and understood these things, because I realized what they were doing. In MK Ultra mind control, they subject babies or young babies to extreme trauma in the 3-4 first years of their life. And this creates a multiple personality disorder, as they call it, because the severe trauma they expose these poor babies to. The only way the baby can protect itself is to create this ego core, this inner resistance. It becomes like a shield to the situation, and it's stored away in your unconscious mind. It's basically what creates the unconscious. So for the baby, or these MK Ultra babies, they have multiple ego cores, or multiple initial woundings, or multiple core woundings, core resistances, whatever you want to call it. That's what they have, and each of these core woundings become the center of a different personality structure that's built upon that ego core, that inner separation, inner wounding that started early on. But what happens to regular people who are not subjected to MK Ultra techniques and whatnot, who basically have a normal, so-called normal childhood and normal upbringing, you still are exposed to negativity from the mass consciousness and from your parents and whatnot. So, and that's enough to create one such massive resistance, or inner separation, or inner wounding, inner trauma. So you basically have what you might call a single personality disorder, because you're not free. You have become trapped in that personality. As that personality is built upon, that inner core becomes the cornerstone, and then your whole prison complex is built upon that as you grow up and you absorb more trauma and whatnot. And in the end, when you're 18 or 20 years old or whatever, you have become an adult, and your whole inner prison complex is more or less complete, and that has become who you are. That's become that constellation has become who you are, your personality, and it also gives you a certain vibration and a certain level of consciousness according to the scale of consciousness as you see on the screen, depending on, the level of traumas and the severity of them and whatnot, your whole childhood and whatnot. That becomes your psychological makeup, your software that runs your life, so to speak. And that software, that prison complex is obviously very rigid. It's not flexible. Like, pure beingness is wide open and completely flexible and always open. But this complex, this rigid thing is closed and compartmentalized and hidden in the unconscious mind. And it basically runs people's lives unconsciously, because they don't understand that you can actually do anything to dismantle it or get rid of it or change it in any way. So they just they just think that that's who they are, that's how it's supposed to be, and that's how their life play out. The destiny they get is based upon whatever level of consciousness they ended up with at the end of that process of creating that inner prison. And those who are into self-empowerment and spirituality are the people who actually are dismantling that inner prison as best they can and dedicating their life to doing that. And this inner prison is what I call the inner Lucifer. So basically it's what plugs you into the mass consciousness or the negativity, the mass negative ego, the mass hive mind Lucifer, which is basically what people refer to as their mind. A lot of their thoughts are not really their own. They are attracted based on the level of consciousness they have. You will attract certain thoughts into your thought stream, and they will support that level and keep you at that level, and they even try to drag you down to lower levels sometimes. But you will, whatever level you have of consciousness or level of mind, on the scale, you will be supported. Your life view based on that will be supported by the thought stream that you attract all the time continuously. And it takes effort and it takes awareness to actually get out of that karmic loop and start to walk the pathless path towards the top of the scale, or back to the actual inner center of yourself beyond that prison complex. You need to basically dismantle the whole prison to get back to the real center, which is your beingness. So you have your awareness tied up in being projected through these many filters of the prison complex to get reflections back from the world, so you can actually identify these things that you need to take responsibility for. You need to process out of the system to grow in consciousness. And that's the whole journey. That's how it works. But this inner prison complex, it's also it's a microcosmic reflection, or everybody has this, and it creates a macrocosmic reflection in the form of the governments, and not least the hidden deep state government that's sort of operating behind the facade of the governments most people believe are real. And this is the connection, because everybody has this deep state inside of them that is running the show, and on the facade or on the outside they're trying to show themselves as good and whatnot, just like the governments are trying to put up a facade of being good and beneficial and healthy and all that, and they're there to help people and they're there to do good. But then everybody has this deep state negativity, this deep state darkness inside that is sort of sitting in the background and working through that facade. And it's also siphoning off your life force continuously, because all that negativity in you, that your consciousness is being streamed through, is creating a lot of negative energy by default. So you're continuously, by having all these resistances, you're continuously creating a lot of negativity without even knowing it. And the collective negative ego is feeding off of that negativity that everybody is continuously generating by just having this prison complex. Even if you're not doing anything that looks negative, you still have these resistances that create negativity or negative energies. And that means your life force is being siphoned off and taxed by this system, just like the governments are taxing your physical life force through your money, the monetary system. So that's the big connection. If everybody took care of their own inner reflection in a prison system or in a deep state and dismantled it, if that suddenly happened in one big fell swoop, that completely would very quickly change how the world operate and how the world would look and how the countries and the world would be governed. It would completely change everything almost overnight, because you would have a completely new reflection. But as things have been, and as they still are to a certain degree, we are in a process of changing it now, but as things have been and they still are, you have this deep state hidden behind the facade of the so-called real, the so-called state that everybody is seeing in the in the news and the official state, so to speak. That's trying to look like it's beneficial, but it's really a wolf in sheep's clothing. That's the whole situation. So that's what Bashar means when he says that we are our governments. It's because everybody has this inner deep state, this inner government that's running the show kind of in the background, and being taxed, the negativity being taxed by the collective negative ego, at the same time that you are doing negative stuff when you're triggered, and in unconscious moments the negativity is working through you, and this system is working through you to do negative. Like you say something you don't even remember, maybe you don't even think about at the moment, but it maybe hurts somebody really bad because it worked. The entity is working through you to maximize conflict and negativity in the world in unguarded moments and unconscious moments, which is why it's so important to try to be as aware as possible and train your awareness and be aware of the mind at all times and keep the focus on that to avoid serving the beast, so to speak. You can't help serving the beast to a certain degree. That everybody does because you're plugged into it as you're born into the system and this is created in you. But you can always try to minimize doing it, and you can also try to, as best you can, dismantle it, and that's how you raise your level of consciousness, and you increase that's how you increase your level of consciousness, by dismantling this inner prison complex, this inner deep state, as best you can. And a critical mass of people have been doing that and are doing that continuously and have been doing it for a long time, which is what this whole mission is about. Because when enough people do that, on a global scale, it's going to change everything radically, because the reflection has to change when the mass consciousness changes to become much more positive. And that's what all the light workers who have come here, volunteered to come here to do. They've done that in a work to a very effective degree, and now we are seeing, big changes are coming in the world as things are starting to collapse more and more. There would probably be a period of chaos, and there have been chaos already, but there's probably going to be even more as things collapse. And out of that chaos will be born a completely new system based on a higher level of consciousness, and more people who have taken inner responsibility and basically cleansing out and dismantling this inner prison system. So that's the connection, that's the reflection that Bashar talks about. In my view, at least, that's what I've realized from doing a lot of inner work my entire life. So in the end of this video, and now I've explained how it works and the connection between them, I'm going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin, because it ties directly into it, and we are seeing big things happening with Bitcoin right now in the world. And I've been into Bitcoin for many years now. I've been studying it for many years, and I recommend people do that, because it gives you a continuous positive focus. If you study Bitcoin, you will discover a lot of things that you didn't believe was true, was even possible. That Bitcoin can fix so many problems in the world. You will hardly believe it until you actually study it deeply. And I recommend going on Twitter and following people who are in the Bitcoin community. There are really many smart people there, and you can learn a lot from those people. They have articles, videos, podcasts, and whatnot, even books you can check. And that's what I did, and I learned so much about it, and it's really fascinating, and it also gives you a constructive and positive focus, because you can always learn more about Bitcoin. You can always help Bitcoins and spread the word about Bitcoin. It's a physical thing you can do. It becomes like a lifestyle. It becomes like a hobby or a passion you can have. And I've been having it I haven't talked about it so much on this channel, but I'm going to do it now because I think it's important, and you still have a good opportunity to basically earn a lot of money or win a lot of money from investing in it at this point, because it's about to go global. It's about to go massive now. But anyway, the reason I recommend Bitcoin is because it's a direct way to take physical action and opt out of the corrupt, parasitic fiat currency system. Because the way the fiat system works is that, the governments can print as much money as they want, and they create around 8%, or they increase the money supply by around 8% every year, which is a lot because they have a compounding effect. So like year after year, you have 8% more money supply on average since the 1970s. And that goes for, dollars and euros and many other countries also in the West. And obviously it's even worse in, the third world and many other poor countries. They have a lot higher inflation. But this is the root cause of inflation. It's the money printing. It's the increasing of the money supply, because that makes your money worth less. And the people who are close to the money printer, which is the government and the rich people who can take up the loans, because loans is how money is created in the system, they know how to take advantage of the system, and so it's basically the system is taxing. It's another way of taxing people. The poor and middle class and the working class and the middle class are being taxed by stealth by this fiat inflation system, because they have to take the bill by paying more and more for goods and services and everything, and the house and having somewhere to live and whatnot, because of inflation. And if you save money in the bank with 8% inflation, or whatever it is now, 10%, then the half-life of your purchasing power is like 10 to 15 years depending, but it really, you can't save money that way. It's like working in quicksand, and it's even worse in most of the world. It's even worse than this. They have 20% or more inflation, up to 90%, like in Argentina had before the new president. They had a horrible inflation, right? It's like you have no chance. You're working in quicksand. But now, because of Bitcoin, you have like a rock solid fundament to build on. And there are many communities in Africa and Asia and South America now who are based around Bitcoin, because it gives them hope. They're living in poor conditions, but it gives them hope for the future, at least for their children. It gives them a purpose in life, because they can work and they can, whatever little money they can save in Bitcoin. And maybe when the kids get older and they can inherit that Bitcoin, and that's worth so much that they can actually get an education and have a much better life than their parents. So it gives a lot of poor people hope in the third world. And this you can check on YouTube. They have YouTube channels and they have websites. These people, these communities, you can check it out. But that's a big thing about Bitcoin. It gives a lot of people hope, and it gives you a foundation to build on, because with endless money printing and money supply that increases by 8%, and even 40% in the COVID years, it increased by 40%. The money supply, but 8% on average, around 8%. That means your money is being debased continuously. Your purchasing power is being debased. But Bitcoin has a fixed and unchangeable and incorruptible monetary policy. You know exactly how many Bitcoin there will ever be, 21 million, and you also know how many new Bitcoin will be issued every day. For now, it's 900 new Bitcoin every day, and in April this year, it's going to be half of that, like 450 instead. So that means it's going to cut the supply of new Bitcoin in half. That happens every 4 years until we reach the maximum limit of 21 million Bitcoin in year 2140, I think it is. But anyway, right now there's like 19.5 million Bitcoin in existence, but like 4 million of these Bitcoins have been lost forever, because in the beginning it wasn't worth that much. So the people didn't care too much, but so many Bitcoin have been lost forever, which makes Bitcoin even more scarce. And then a lot of people are fanatically into Bitcoin. They will never sell. They have bought and been buying for a long time, and they will never sell, because they realize they can just hold Bitcoin like you're holding a piece of real estate, and you can take up a loan based on that. So there's no point in ever selling the hardest asset and most scarce asset known to man, which has basically been engineered for this purpose of increasing purchasing power over time. And now the ETFs have been approved on Wall Street or on the exchanges, so everybody in the financial world, the traditional financial world, can now, with a few clicks of a button, can now be exposed to Bitcoin through the ETFs, which is exchange traded funds. And these ETFs are buying Bitcoin for billions of dollars every day now. That's why the price have increased so much in the recent months, up to above $70,000 right now for one Bitcoin. And I believe this is just the beginning, because now the whole financial elite and the whole world, even countries, are buying Bitcoin. Even states in the USA are now mining Bitcoin and buying Bitcoin. I know. So this is going to be a global thing, and it's about to explode into becoming a global asset that everybody's going to use as a store of value, because it's the best way and everybody can participate. Even in Africa, you can even store Bitcoin on your old type of mobile phones. You don't even need a smartphone. You can send Bitcoin via SMS in a new system they have down there, and everybody can save in it. You don't even need a bank account. You can actually you can buy Bitcoin in many different ways. They do that in Africa and in South America and in Asia and many places. So everybody can participate. Even poor people can participate in this global way of storing your wealth. That's the beauty of it, and it solves the problem of every rich person and every poor person, because poor people need a foundation to build on, to save in, and rich people need a way to store their wealth over time and not be eaten up by the inflation. And that Bitcoin comes in as a great way to do that, much better than what rich people use now, which is property or real estate and stocks. Both come with a lot of drawbacks and negative things that you don't get with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is much easier to store and bring with you. If you have to change the location or change the country or flee the country or whatever, you can just remember 12 words in your head, and you can bring Bitcoin with you, anywhere in the world. You can't bring gold with you as easily over the borders, across borders, and the same goes for property or real estate, obviously, and even fiat money you can't bring with you. A lot of that either is difficult to, but Bitcoin is digital and it's invisible, so to speak, so nobody can steal it from you. You can own it by remembering 12 or 24 words. You can own your whole, everything you own you can have in your head with 24 words or 12 words. So it's really revolutionizing, and now it's being taken into the traditional financial system through the ETFs, and that's a big deal because it gives everybody a way to get easily exposure to the Bitcoin through these ETFs, and that's exactly what is happening now. So I encourage people to look into it at least and study it for a while, because it gives you, as I said, it gives you a positive and constructive focus, and it also solves a lot of problems. Bitcoin solves, for example, it balances out the electric grid of electric companies in Japan and in some states in the US, like Texas, are already mining Bitcoin, because when the demand is low from the grid, they can turn up the Bitcoin mining and they can make money. And when the demand is high, they can turn down the Bitcoin miners, turn them off, and they can, get that power to the house, the industry and the houses and whatnot. And that means they can have a more robust grid. So it solves a major problem only, with energy. That's why I think in the future you're going to have all the energy companies are going to become Bitcoin miners, because they're going to realize this. It's already happening in Japan, in Texas, and many other places. And in Canada and some places you actually have hotels who use Bitcoin mining, because each mining unit is generating 1,500 watts of heat, just like an oven. So they have like a basement full of these Bitcoin miners, and they're heating up the whole hotel while making money. So they basically get free power, free electricity, or even they actually have a profit on that. So they're heating up the whole hotel in Canada by using Bitcoin mining equipment, because it generates so much heat. And the same goes for, they have cannabis growers who heat their cannabis plantage with Bitcoin miners and whatnot. There are so many things you can use it for. because you get free electricity in that sense, because you're generating money at the same time as you're generating heat. So there you can look into it. It solves so many problems, and I've calibrated it. Bitcoin calibrates as a technology. It calibrates at 490 on the scale of consciousness. So I think it's a divinely or higher ET inspired invention that's coming at the exactly right moment to solve so many problems at the same time in the world, not least the problem of inflation and having somewhere to store your wealth in the coming collapse of the fiat system, right? So that's why I encourage people to look into Bitcoin. Don't take my word for it and don't buy it because I say so. Obviously, this is not financial advice, but you definitely look into it and do it quickly, because the price is going to go up rapidly now in the coming months and years. Now that the whole, industrial investors and companies and countries and all sorts of people are going to buy it and are going to buy it very soon now, because they're going to see how great it performs compared to anything else, and has been doing for many years already. So anyway, I mean, the point is, with Bitcoin, you can opt out. It's a physical way. I mean, you're dismantling your inner Lucifer, inner prison system, inner parasite by doing the spiritual inner work. But buying Bitcoin or saving in Bitcoin, at least for a certain percentage of your money or your wealth, that means you're opting out of the parasitic fiat system, because nobody can corrupt Bitcoin. It cannot be changed because it's completely decentralized. You have to look into this too, to understand how it works. But it doesn't matter how much Bitcoin these rich people actually own or buy, they can't control or change or corrupt Bitcoin in any way. So Bitcoin is completely incorruptible, and it's completely, pure in that sense. It's the purest financial thing there is on the planet. It's almost like spiritual money, because it's halfway non-physical even. You can own it by remembering words in your head. And it's also completely unchangeable, and nobody can corrupt it. It has no foundation behind it. It has no founder. The Satoshi disappeared, in the beginning. He has never moved his Bitcoin. He mined 1 million Bitcoin, and these Bitcoins have never been moved. So, he's most likely dead or gone. So there is nothing, like all the other cryptocurrencies, there's always a group or a person behind them who can change the fundamentals at a whim, or whatever it serves them. This happens all the time, so don't fall for the scams and the nonsense of the other so-called altcoins. They're all scams, including Ethereum. It's all nonsense, because it's not really decentralized. It's all controlled by a single entity or a single person, and that person can obviously as easily be corrupted as any politician or any banking person. So do not waste time and speculate in the altcoins. That's my advice, at least. I did that in the beginning because I didn't know any better, but that was many years ago. I got lucky, so I actually made money from doing that, but I do not recommend it. I recommend only looking into Bitcoin, studying Bitcoin, read books about it, look at YouTube videos and podcasts, and get into Bitcoin Twitter and talk to people there, and get to know and learn from them. That's what I did. In a few months or some little time, you will learn a lot about it. You will understand all the problems that Bitcoin is solving, and it's going to have a major impact on this whole ascension process. It's going to be like an intermediary period when you're going to need Bitcoin, I think, to store your wealth, because everything else is going to collapse. And then after, as the mass consciousness and everything is upgraded to a new level, we're probably not going to need money anymore. But that's, many years into the future. We're not going to need any kind of money, because everything is going to be run by synchronicity, and the world is going to completely change with technology. So you're not going to, people are going to trust each other again. It's not going to be, Bitcoin is something that you don't need to trust anybody. There's no middleman. There's no person you need to trust. That's the beauty of it. It's just like a clockwork that's doing its thing automatically and autonomously. There's nobody to trust. So this is a good technology now that we need to trust people, because with the banking system you need to trust intermediaries all the time, and the banks are now have proven that they can't be trusted, because they are shutting down or freezing bank accounts if you participate in a protest or send money to even support, like the trucker protest in Canada. People were sending us small amounts of money and got their account frozen by the bank. Nobody can freeze your Bitcoin. So definitely this is a great way to take physical action and, silently protest, or not protest, but basically transcend the physical, the fiat parasitic system. You're just building or supporting a system that transcends. You're not opposing the fiat system, you're just supporting and opting into a system that transcends the old legacy fiat system, the parasitic system, and it's built on a much higher level, on a much sounder, more fair foundation, and much more, high level of consciousness foundation. That's what Bitcoin is. So you can opt out of the parasitic fiat system, at least with a certain percentage of your wealth, and you can transcend the fiat's parasitic system, and you can opt in and join the Bitcoin revolution instead.